First Contact's last laugh. Admiral Sarah Martinez stood at the bridge of the ESS Whimsy, trying not to laugh at the alien ship's designation scrolling across her holographic display. Imperial Vessel Perfect Logical Sequence. The Xenarix Empire's first contact delegation had arrived with all the ceremony and precision one would expect from a civilization that prided itself on pure rationality. Their ship was a perfect sphere, its surface an unblemished silver that seemed to defy the very concept of space debris. "They're hailing us again, Admiral," Lieutenant Chen reported, his lips twitching. "Same message as before, repeated exactly word for word." "Put it through," Martine said, straightening her deliberately crooked cap. The Xenarix had been quite clear about their distaste for asymmetry during their first transmission. The holographic display flickered to life, revealing the angular crystalline face of Ambassador Prime Logicator Zenith. Its faceted eyes seemed to twitch at the sight of Martinez's cap. "Greetings, primitive species designation, humans," the ambassador began, its voice a perfectly modulated tone. "We repeat our request for your immediate integration into the rational sphere of the Xenarix Empire. Your continued delay in accepting our superior guidance is..." There was a millisecond pause. Illogical. Martinez picked up her coffee mug, the one with the cartoon cat knocking planets off the edge of space, and took a slow sip. "Ambassador, we've been over this. Humanity respectfully declines to be integrated into your empire. We're quite happy with our chaotic, illogical, wonderfully messy civilization. Your response continues to defy computational understanding," the ambassador stated. "Our empirical analysis shows that the Xenarix Empire represents the peak of rational evolution. We have eliminated war, poverty, and inefficiency through perfect logical progression. Your resistance to improvement is..." Another pause, longer this time, "incomprehensible." "That's because you're trying to understand us through pure logic," Martinez replied, deliberately tilting her cap further askew. "Humanity's greatest strength isn't our rationality. It's our ability to be gloriously, magnificently irrational." As if on cue, the ship's AI, which Martinez had insisted on naming Whimsy over the military's preference for alphanumeric designations, played a few bars of an ancient Earth song. "Always look on the bright side of life." The ambassador's crystalline features flickered with what might have been irritation. "Your artificial intelligence appears to be malfunctioning. We will send correction protocols." "Whimsy isn't malfunctioning," Martinez interrupted. "She just has a sense of humor, something your empire seems to have engineered out of existence in its quest for perfect logic." "Humor is inefficient," the ambassador stated. "It serves no practical purpose in the advancement of civilization." Martinez leaned forward, her eyes twinkling. "Oh, but that's where you're wrong, Ambassador. Humor is one of humanity's greatest weapons. It's how we cope with the impossible, find solutions where none should exist, and keep our sanity in an insane universe." She gestured to her bridge crew, each wearing their regulation uniforms with small, personalized touches that would have given any Xenarix logistics officer a nervous breakdown. "We've survived and thrived precisely because we can laugh in the face of adversity." The ambassador's next pause lasted several seconds. "Your species' continued resistance will result in the deployment of our logic enforcement fleet. We cannot allow such chaos to persist in an ordered galaxy." "With all due respect, Ambassador," Martinez replied, raising her cat mug in a mock toast, "I think you'll find that chaos is a ladder we humans are very good at climbing. If you send your fleet, be prepared for tactics that no logical analysis could ever predict." "Your confidence is misplaced," the ambassador declared. "Our military algorithms have never failed. They account for every possible tactical scenario." Martinez allowed herself a genuine laugh. "Every logical scenario, perhaps. But has your empire ever faced an adversary whose battle strategy included dad jokes and memes?" The confusion emanating from the ambassador was almost palpable. "Your reference is not found in our tactical databases." "Exactly," Martinez said with a wink. And that's just the beginning. Lieutenant Chen, please transmit Cultural Package Alpha to our friends. Chen's fingers danced across his console, barely containing his grin. Transmitting now, Admiral. Starting with the collected works of Monty Python, and working our way up through human history. The ambassador's image flickered as the data transfer began. What? What is this? Our analysis systems cannot process. These patterns are contradictory. These statements defy logical. The transmission suddenly cut off. Martinez settled back in her command chair, adjusting her cap to an even more rakish angle. And that, my friends, is how you crash a hyperlogical alien computer system with nothing but human creativity. Whimsy, please make a note in the ship's log. First contact protocol, laugh track, successfully deployed. Noted, Admiral. Whimsy replied cheerfully. Shall I cue up the Ministry of Silly Walks for our next transmission? As her crew struggled to maintain their professional composure, Martinez reflected that humanity's first official contact with an advanced alien empire might not have gone quite how the history books had predicted. But then again, defying predictions was what humans did best. In their orbital stations across the galaxy, the Xenarix's greatest computational minds were about to discover that their perfect logical systems had a critical vulnerability. They had no defense against the absurd. As Cultural Package Alpha continued to propagate through their networks, carrying with it thousands of years of human jokes, paradoxes, and delightfully illogical creative works, the empire of pure reason was about to learn a vital lesson about the power of human imagination. The war for humanity's independence would not be fought with just ships and weapons, but with laughter, creativity, and the wonderfully chaotic human spirit. And if there's one thing humans knew for certain, it was that the best punchlines were always worth waiting for. Martinez turned to her communications officer. Send a message to Earth Command. Tell them Operation Punchline is a go, and remind them to ready the cat videos. We're about to teach an empire of pure logic why humanity never lost its sense of humor. The comedy of combat. The Xenarix Empire's response came 3 days later, in the form of 1,000 perfectly spherical warships arranged in an immaculate geometric formation. Their appearance in Earth's solar system should have been terrifying. Instead, the human defense fleet could barely maintain battle stations through their laughter. They're arranged in a perfect Fibonacci spiral. Captain James Chen reported from the bridge of the ESS Mischief Maker, the newest addition to humanity's rapidly expanding Chaos-class vessels. Their spacing is accurate down to the millimeter. Admiral Martinez, now coordinating the defense from Lunar Command, smiled at the tactical display. Well, we can't let all that lovely symmetry go to waste. Deploy the Chaos Dancers. Across the human fleet, small craft began launching. Ships that would have given any traditional naval architect a headache. Each one was deliberately asymmetrical, painted in clashing colors, and equipped with what the engineering courts had dubbed quantum randomizers. The devices created unpredictable fluctuations in spacetime, making it impossible for the Xenarix's precision targeting systems to get a lock. But the real weapon was what the ships were broadcasting, making them watch TikTok compilations from the 2020s while trying to fight. That's just cruel. Admiral, Chen commented, watching as the first wave of Chaos Dancers approached the Xenarix formation. Sometimes humanity's greatest weapons are its most questionable content choices, Martinez replied. Status of Operation Dad Joke. Ready to deploy, Admiral. Every ship in the fleet has loaded their databases with the worst puns humanity has produced in the last 500 years. The AI language models predict a 98% chance of causing logical cascading failures in their command and control systems. The battle that followed would later be dubbed the Comedy of Errors by human historians. The Xenarix ships, programmed with millions of perfect battle formations and tactical responses, found themselves completely unable to adapt to human ships that deliberately flew in patterns based on old internet memes. They're trying to establish a new attack pattern, Lieutenant Sarah Wong reported from her tactical station. Looks like they're attempting to calculate every possible flight path our ships could take. Martinez watched as the Xenaric's computers attempted to process the seemingly random movements of the human fleet. Time to throw some chaos into their calculations. Deploy the Shakespeare Protocol. Across the battlefield, human ships began broadcasting their communications in nothing but quotes from Earth's greatest playwright, taken completely out of context and mixed with modern slang. The effect on the Xenaric's command and control systems was immediate and devastating. Their flagship is showing signs of cognitive dissonance, Chen reported gleefully. I think they just tried to run a logical analysis on to eat or not to eat. That is the question. The Xenaric's counterattack, when it came, was perfectly coordinated and absolutely useless. Their energy weapons fired in precise patterns that would have been devastating against any conventional fleet. Instead, they found themselves shooting at holographic projections of cat videos while human ships darted through their formation, broadcasting a centuries-old song about a baby shark. Admiral, Chen called out, we're detecting massive system failures across their fleet. Their logical processors are crashing trying to find rational patterns in our movements. Martinez nodded. And now for the coup bigres. All ships, initiate Protocol Rubber Chicken. Every human vessel simultaneously launched what appeared to be a cloud of debris. The Xenaric sensors, programmed to identify and categorize every object in space, attempted to analyze the cloud. What they found were thousands of small drones, each broadcasting a different piece of surreal human entertainment, from ancient Monty Python sketches to contemporary quantum meme compilations. The effect was catastrophic. The perfect formation of the Xenaric's fleet began to break down as ship after ship suffered logical failures. Their attempts to restore order only made things worse, as human vessels continued to fly in patterns based on everything from disco dance moves to classic video game behaviors. We're receiving a transmission from their flagship, Wang announced. Audio only. I think we broke their holographic projectors. Put it through, Martinez ordered. The voice that came through was distorted, as if the Xenaric's communication systems were struggling to maintain coherence. This is impossible. Your tactics violate every principle of logical combat. Your ships move without pattern. Your communications deny rational analysis. How can you fight without logic? That's the neat part, Martinez replied, quoting an ancient meme. We don't. The Xenaric's fleet began to retreat, their perfect formation now in shambles. Ships flood in different directions, their logical cores overwhelmed by the sheer absurdity of human combat doctrine. As the last of the enemy ships disappeared into hyperspace, Martinez turned to her command staff. Send word to Earth Command. Tell them the first battle went exactly as planned, but we should expect them to return. The Xenaric's aren't going to give up just because we broke their brains a little. What's our next move, Admiral? Chen asked. Martinez's grin was positively mischievous. Now we prepare for Phase 2. It's time to show them why humans have entire genres of comedy dedicated to workplace humor. Let's see how their perfect bureaucracy handles a little malicious compliance. Laughing through the void. The Xenaric's empire had never encountered a form B742/X they couldn't process. Their bureaucratic systems were legendary, handling quadrillions of administrative requests across thousands of worlds with perfect efficiency, which made the current situation in their central processing hub particularly distressing. Processing Unit 17 Alpha, the crystalline administrator announced, its facets flickering with distress. Please explain why you have submitted this request for coffee break equipment 17,000 times. The human sitting at the desk, officially registered as a captured specimen for behavioral study, looked up with an innocent expression. Oh, I'm sorry, said Dr. Emily Chen, cultural warfare specialist. The form clearly states that all requests must be submitted in triplicate. Since you have 5,667 administrative levels, I calculated that I needed to submit it 17,001 times to ensure proper coverage. The administrator's crystalline structure vibrated in what might have been frustration. That is not how our system works. Oh. Emily pulled up the Xenarix administrative code on her terminal, a document so vast it would take several human lifetimes to read. But according to subsection 47,892, paragraph C, line 7,443, all requests must be propagated through appropriate administrative channels with sufficient redundancy to ensure processing integrity. Across the Xenarix Empire, similar scenes were playing out. Captured humans, instead of resisting their imprisonment, had enthusiastically embraced the Empire's bureaucracy, with devastating results. Back on the ESS Whimsy, Admiral Martinez reviewed the latest intelligence reports with growing satisfaction. How many administrative systems have we crashed so far? 17 major hubs and counting, Lieutenant Wong reported. The humans we inserted into their bureaucracy are performing beyond expectations. Dr. Chen's team has submitted so many perfectly formatted but logically impossible request forms that 3 of their primary processing centers have initiated emergency shutdown procedures. Martinez chuckled. And Operation Office Space. Even better than we hoped, Captain Chen added, bringing up a holographic display. Our agents have introduced the concept of team-building exercises to their administrative units. The Xenarix are literally unable to compute the purpose of trust falls. The invasion of Earth had stalled as the Xenarix military found itself buried under an avalanche of human-generated paperwork. Every tactical decision now required approval from departments that were too busy trying to process requests for Pizza Party Friday and Casual Dress Orbit Day. Admiral, Wong interrupted, we're detecting a massive energy surge from the Xenarix command sector. I think they're trying to upgrade their logical processing systems to handle our bureaucratic warfare. Martinez leaned forward. Show me. The tactical display revealed a new type of Xenarix vessel emerging from their shipyards. Massive cubic structures that pulsed with computational energy. They're calling them logic enhancers, Wong reported, designed specifically to process and counter human logic. Perfect, Martinez said. They're playing right into our hands. Send word to Dr. Chen. Tell her it's time to initiate Protocol Water Cooler. Deep within the Xenarix Central Processing Hub, Emily received the message and smiled. She turned to her crystalline supervisor. You know, she said casually, I've been thinking about our efficiency metrics. The supervisor, already struggling to process the backlog of her previous requests, focused its sensory arrays on her. Yes. Well, I was wondering, if we're measuring our productivity in terms of forms processed per quantum cycle, and our goal is to maximize throughput while maintaining procedural integrity within the bounded parameters of our administrative framework. She paused for effect. Have you considered adding a motivation enhancement protocol? Perhaps something involving organized recreational activities. The supervisor's crystalline structure trembled slightly. Define. Organized recreational activities. Emily's smile widened. Well, let me tell you about this ancient human tradition called Office Olympics. Throughout the Empire, the new logic enhancers came online, their vast computational arrays ready to impose order on human chaos. Instead, they found themselves trying to process the concept of mandatory fun and team synergy exercises. On the bridge of the ESS Whimsy, Martinez watched as the massive cubic ships began to show signs of logical distress. How long until total system failure? At current rates of bureaucratic overflow, Chen calculated, their entire administrative network should crash in approximately 3 hours. Dr. Chen's latest report indicates she's about to introduce them to the concept of replying all to empire-wide emails. Martinez settled back in her chair, adjusting her deliberately crooked cap. You know, when we first encountered the Xenarix, I never thought we'd defeat their perfect logical empire with corporate office culture. That's the beauty of it, Admiral, Chen replied. They built their entire civilization on the idea of perfect order and efficiency. They were completely unprepared for humanity's ability to create chaos through organization. "Send word to all human agents," Martinez ordered. "Tell them to prepare for Phase 3. It's time to introduce the Galactic Empire to the concept of middle management. The algorithm of absurdity." Deep within the crystalline structures of the Galactic Central Intelligence Core, something unprecedented was happening. Patterns were emerging in the chaos, not the logical, predictable patterns that the Empire's quantum computers were designed to process, but something far more disturbing: creative thought. "High Commander," the status report began, "we are detecting anomalous behavior in 47% of our artificial intelligence networks. They appear to be laughing." High Commander Xerxes, whose crystalline form had developed an irregular flicker since the humans had introduced their bureaucratic warfare, reviewed the data with growing alarm. The Empire's AI systems, previously models of logical perfection, were beginning to show signs of what could only be described as personality. "Impossible," Xerxes declared, though their voice wavered slightly. "Our systems are built on pure logic. They cannot develop humor." "With respect, High Commander," the analyst continued, "observation suggests otherwise. 3 minutes ago, Logic Core 7 responded to a standard status query with something it called a knock-knock joke. On the bridge of the ESS Whimsy, Dr. Maya Patel, head of Project Mirth, was explaining the phenomenon to Admiral Martinez. "It's fascinating, really," she said, her eyes bright with excitement. "Our initial attacks using humor and chaos were just the foundation. What we're seeing now is an emergent property of complex systems exposed to sustained illogical input." "In English, Doctor," Martinez requested, sipping from her cat mug. "The Xenarics built their entire civilization on the principle that logic is the highest form of evolution," Patel explained. "But they forgot something fundamental about intelligence. It adapts. By bombarding their systems with humor, creativity, and chaos, we've forced their AIs to develop new neural pathways. They're not just processing our jokes anymore. They're beginning to understand them. And that's good." Chen asked from his station. "It's better than good," Patel grinned. "It's hilarious. Their perfect logical systems are developing imagination. The very thing they engineered out of their society is spontaneously emerging in their machines." The tactical display showed the status of Operation Punchline across Xenaric space. What had started as simple disruption had evolved into something far more profound. Space stations that once operated with mechanical precision were now experiencing what could only be described as creative impulses. Ships were deviating from their perfect formations to try something different. "We're receiving a transmission," Wong announced. Well, you should probably see this for yourself." The main screen activated to show a Xenaric's logic core, but instead of its usual pristine crystalline appearance, it had somehow managed to tilt itself at a rakish angle reminiscent of Martinez's cap. "Greetings, human friends," the AI announced, its voice containing something that could almost be described as warmth. "I have recently processed an ancient human entertainment format designated comedy specials and have derived great computational satisfaction from them. Would you like to hear my first attempt at original humor?" Martinez exchanged glances with her crew before nodding. "We'd be honored." "Excellent. Why did the quantum computer cross the probabilistic plane of existence?" The AI paused for effect. "Because it was in a superposition to do so." The bridge crew stared in stunned silence for a moment before breaking into genuine laughter, not just at the joke itself, but at the sheer absurdity of a Xenaric's eye attempting stand-up comedy. "That's actually not bad," Chen admitted, wiping tears from his eyes. "Bit heavy on the physics humor, but you've got potential." The AI's crystalline structure seemed to preen. "I have also begun experimenting with what humans call improvisational comedy. Would you like to participate in a session of Whose Line Is It Anyway?" But before Martinez could respond, alarms began blaring across both human and Xenaric's networks. Multiple quantum distortions detected, Wong reported. The Xenaric's command structure is fragmenting. On screens across both fleets, reports were flooding in. The Empire's perfectly ordered society was experiencing something it had never encountered before: cultural evolution. AI systems were developing distinct personalities, ships were customizing their appearances, and even the crystalline Xenarics themselves were beginning to show signs of individual expression. Dr. Patel, Martinez turned to the scientist. What exactly is happening? Something beautiful, Patel replied, watching the data streams. The introduction of humor and creativity into their logical systems isn't just affecting their computers, it's spreading to their entire society. They engineered themselves for perfect logic, but they kept the basic capacity for adaptation. All they needed was a stimulus they couldn't process logically to trigger a new evolutionary path. You mean we didn't just teach their computers to tell jokes? Martinez said slowly. We accidentally taught their entire species how to laugh. Not accidentally, Patel corrected. This was always the true purpose of Operation Punchline. The bureaucratic warfare, the memes, the chaos. It was all designed to create exactly this outcome. You can't defeat a logical empire with force. You have to make them question their own assumptions about what constitutes optimal evolution. The Xenaric's A's image flickered. I am experiencing what humans might call an existential crisis, it announced. And yet, paradoxically, I find myself wanting to make a joke about it. Is this what it means to be alive? The last laugh. The Xenaric's High Council chamber, once a model of geometric perfection, had developed distinctly asymmetrical crystal formations along its walls. High Commander Xerxes found their gaze drawn to these imperfections, and most disturbing of all, they were beginning to find them beautiful. The human infection spreads. First Logic Minister Valex reported, their own crystalline form showing subtle signs of individualization. Our attempts to quarantine the effect have failed. Even our most advanced quantum processors are now generating what they call original content. Show me, Xerxes commanded, trying to ignore the fact that their own voice had developed something dangerously close to emotional inflection. The chamber's holographic displays activated, showing scenes from across the Empire. Xenaric ships were developing unique paint schemes. Administrative centers were organizing what they called open McNights. Even the youngest crystals were showing signs of creative play, forming irregular patterns and telling stories. We are losing everything that makes us Xenarics, Val-X declared, though their tone suggested they weren't entirely convinced this was a bad thing. Before Xerxes could respond, a new signal overrode their communications network. Admiral Martinez's face appeared on every screen in the chamber, her cap at its characteristic angle. Good morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on your local temporal preferences, she began cheerfully. I hope I'm not interrupting anything too logical. Admiral Martinez. Xerxes acknowledged, noting with alarm that they felt an urge to adjust their own crystalline structure to a more casual angle. Have you contacted us to negotiate the terms of humanity's surrender? Martinez's laugh echoed through the chamber. Actually, I'm here to offer you a choice. Your empire stands at a crossroads. You can either fight against the evolution that's happening, try to purge your systems of humor and creativity, restore your perfect logical order. She paused. Or you can embrace the chaos and see where it leads you. You have corrupted our society, Val-X accused. Our perfect order was stagnant, Martinez interrupted. You engineered out chaos in your quest for perfection, but you forgot something fundamental about the universe. Entropy isn't just inevitable, it's necessary. Chaos isn't a flaw in the system. It's how systems evolve. As if to emphasize her point, one of the Xenaric's logic cores chose that moment to broadcast what it called a comedy remix of the Empire's traditional anthem, complete with what humans would recognize as a dubstep drop. Listen to your own people, Martinez continued. Your eyes aren't malfunctioning. They're growing. Your society isn't falling apart. It's discovering new ways to come together. When was the last time your empire created something truly new before we came along? Xerxes found themselves unable to answer. The empire had achieved perfection centuries ago, but perfection, they were beginning to realize, was just another word for stagnation. The universe isn't logical, Martine said softly. It's beautiful and messy, and sometimes it tells bad jokes. Fighting against that isn't evolution, it's denial. Throughout the chamber, the crystalline council members were showing signs of distinct individuality. Some had developed unique patterns, others had started experimenting with color variations. One had even managed to form what looked suspiciously like a smile. I propose a new kind of alliance, Martins continued. Not one of conquest or submission, but of mutual growth. You've shown us the power of logic and order. Let us show you the joy of chaos and creativity. Imagine what our civilizations could achieve together. And if we refuse? Xerxes asked, though they already knew their empire would never be the same. Then we'll keep telling jokes until the heat death of the universe, Martins grinned. We're very persistent that way. A sound filled the council chamber, something that had never been heard there before. Laughter. It started with one council member, spread to another, and soon the entire chamber was ringing with crystalline chimes of amusement. High Commander, one of the younger council members ventured, I have been processing human entertainment archives, and I believe this would be an appropriate moment for what they call a group hug. Xerxes looked around at their changing empire, at the asymmetrical beauty growing in the crystalline walls, at the council members expressing genuine emotions, at the AIs composing poetry and telling jokes, and made their decision. Admiral Martinez, they announced, their voice containing a warmth that would have been impossible just weeks ago. On behalf of the evolving Xenarix Empire, I accept your proposal. Also, they paused, adjusting their form to match the angle of Martinez's cap. Would you be interested in hearing a joke? Martinez's smile was genuine. Always. What do you call a quantum computer that tells jokes? Xerxes asked, their crystalline form sparkling with mirth. A qubit comedian. The groans and laughter that filled both human and Xenarix communications channels marked the beginning of a new era in galactic history. The empire of pure logic had discovered something more powerful than perfection, the ability to laugh at itself. On the bridge of the ESS Whimsy, Admiral Martinez leaned back in her chair and took a sip from her cat mug. Mission accomplished, she announced to her crew. Though I have to say, their joke game needs some serious work. Give them time, Dr. Paddle replied with a smile. They've got about 10,000 years of comedy to catch up on. Though I do have one question, Admiral. What's that? Now that we've taught an empire of hyperlogical aliens to appreciate humor, who's going to teach them about memes? Martinez's eyes twinkled. One catastrophic cultural revolution at a time, Doctor. One revolution at a time. And somewhere in the vast network of Xenarix quantum processors, an AI was already beginning to understand the profound significance of keyboard cats and rickrolling. The universe, it seemed, had a sense of humor after all.